Hey, are you a fan of thriller movies? Are you a fan of romantic yet possibly kinky subplots? Are you a fan of Glen Powell or average Joes that may resemble him? Well, I might just have the movie for you. Greetings, podcast listeners and movie flicker pickers, and welcome to the Pick a Flick Podcast, a show that features a collection of film and sometimes television reviews, and is handpicked by me, your host, The Western Wonder. This episode will cover Hitman, a new movie that has been in talks as it hit the festival circuit last fall, premiering at prestigious film festivals from Venice to Toronto to London before being picked up for distribution by Netflix for approximately $20 million.
Wow!
Directed by Richard Linklater, the filmmaker behind such films as School of Rock with funny man Jack Black, A Scanner Darkly with Keanu Reeves, and Boyhood, a film notable for purposely taking years to produce, this film stars Glen Powell and has become a critical success despite it being a streaming exclusive for Netflix, which begs the question of the episode. Is it truly a Hitman, or should it have been in theaters? Well, that's for you and I to find out. Strap in, buccos, we're heading to New Orleans for a spoiler adventure. Meet Gary Johnson, played by Glen Powell. By first impression, he may seem like a down-to-earth, quirky part-time cop/spy, which he takes on full-time with the main guy, a jackass named Jasper, played by Austin Emilio, gets limited crunch time due to a scuffle with some teenagers. It reminds me of an incident surrounding a comedian who opened up a Pandora's box of truths this year. But once you get to know Gary a little bit more, he turns out to be a detective who plays the role of a hitman as a way to get potential customers calling for his criminal services under prison bars. One of his exes convinces Gary to take on a new relationship. It ends up with him meeting a drop-dead gorgeous woman named Madison, played by Adria Arjona, who requests to have her husband killed by Hitman Gary. Ron, which is one of his Hitman aliases. He passes on this and suggests that she should just leave the relationship and start anew, which she does, and ends up having a very frisky affair with this new lady, while still being under his Hitman guise, that is. Things take a shift when the woman's husband actually gets murdered and Gary has to figure out who killed him. So, right off the bat, let me start off by saying this. I can completely see why people prefer for this movie to be a fully theatrical release, so to that I say, screw you Netflix, but also, thank you Netflix, because it's truly one of the most entertaining things that I've seen come out of the streamer in a while. The performances here was some of the strongest positives to come out of this, especially with Glen Powell, who turned in a humorous, quirky, and confident performance in the role of Gary and all of his Kang-like variant hitmen. Now, while it was fun seeing him get into all these different disguises and putting on terrible accents on purpose, there is something sitting in my chest that I'm sure other people who have watched this movie are wondering as well. Are we going to see the extended director's cut where we see Gary obviously working out on a day-to-day basis? There's no way that you can tell me that the self-described homebody and cat person and normal guy
Hi, how are you? Wonderful weather we're having.
was never hitting the gym and coming out with that ripped and shredded of a body. I demand a workout cut, Richard Simmons. Show us the goods. Minor tangent aside, did I mention that Powell was really good here? This is the first movie I'm seeing him in its entirety, but I'm interested in seeing how the trajectory of his career goes from here. Moving down the cast list, Adria Arjona brings a smooth yet often troubled damsel in distress as personality into her character of Madison, and has some strong chemistry opposite Powell. They particularly work off each other well, and the second half of the movie goes off the rails, for better or for worse. But I can't say that I blame the guy for losing over this beautiful woman.
I would have been swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallow?
Also, the supporting cast of Austin Emilio, Retta, and Sanjay Rao as the cop squad were fun and a bit funny to watch as they're reacting to Gary's movies in real time with bewilderment just as much as we are. Despite some jokes being hit or miss. As much as I can rave about the performances and humor of this movie all day, I must say that the major cut of this film is how much of a slight downward spiral the second half of the film was for me. So to set up the conflict, a notable supporting character catches on to Gary/Ron and Madison's lie and plans to expose them, until that money starts calling their name. As said character explains their plan to end up passing out unconscious, and Gary and Madison have to come up with a plan on how to get rid of this nuisance, and that's it. Seriously, that's it. The movie ends in a wholesome, kind of reflective way, which was a bit of a downer for me because I was definitely expecting more, action-packed stuff, but it just kind of ends. Perhaps it is for the best, though, especially knowing that this movie, according to the credits, is loosely inspired by a real-life fake hitman with the same name, emphasis on loosely though, as there were thankfully no actual murders that happened in the real guy's story. And the film's side does go off the rails by the aforementioned second half, and some of the noir-like beats didn't completely resonate to me the first time watching this, and mind you, I do like dark-centered themes in films when it's done right. So, for my final verdict on Hitman, ratings-wise, this is going to get a very light 4 out of 5 popcorn buckets out of me. The second half and the way things ended nearly tanking on pushing this down to a 3.5, but I still enjoyed it. While I have my qualms with how Act 2 went, it is a thoroughly entertaining movie and a strong vehicle for Glenn Powell to show us stuff, and he was confidently backed by a strong supporting cast and a terrific filmmaker Richard Linklater. The way that the aesthetic and cinematography feels like something rather indie or even vintage translate better on streaming, but probably watching it at home where you can tinker with picture quality and brightness probably is also a bonus cheat code, but that's besides the point. However, if you are a fan of those gritty rom-coms of sorts, then this film might be for you, and if it is, then I strongly recommend that you give it a try. Before we conclude this episode, I want to spotlight today's sponsor, for without his support I would be nothing but a brittle bag of bones if it didn't decide to back this review. Take a listen to this helpful ad and I'll be right back with the final message.
Greetings, my name is John West. By day you may think that I'm a regular driver's license seller, but by night I'm really a detective taking down people who may have invalid licenses. In case you haven't noticed, my latest conversation with someone who had an invalid license was on the news.
Okay, sir, so let me be clear for the last time. You want to get a renewed license, despite the fact that you're driving with a suspended one?
That's correct, Mr. West. I mean, you ought to do for this kind of job, right?
Well, they don't call me the flexible detective for nothing, sir. Another question. You don't happen to be driving right now, are you?
I'm pulling up to the liquor store right now. Dolly Parton's got a new line of alcohol I want to try, but that's besides the point. I'm pulling up right now, and I'll give you my information when I pull into the store.
Interesting. I'll look into this.
And of course, the twist was, he forged a license he didn't have in the first place. Now of course I was able to pin him down to the authorities, but the callback I got from him wasn't pretty.
Y'all quit playing. I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all telling me with this.
So always remember folks, when you think you've made a shady deal, always check beneath the exterior and within the interior of the person that you're dealing with. This is John West, and you're goddamn right that I approve this message.
Thank you once again, Mr. West, for sponsoring this episode. Now next on the Pick a Flick podcast, I will be... This is the third time that this dude has broken into the studio. I really need to tighten up my security here. Godzilla Minus One will be next on the roster, followed by the 2023 version of The Color Purple and the new Beverly Hills Cop movie. We're gonna hope that Eddie Murphy still has that oomph of returning back to Axel Foley. Did you enjoy Hitman if you've seen it? Let me know in the comments or by email, where you could send review suggestions or feedback by reaching out at pickaflickpod@gmail.com. You can also find me under the social media handle pickaflickpod, that is PICAFLICPOD, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or even Letterboxd. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you tune into the next episode. This is your host, the Western Hitman, and I'm signing out. Peace. Oh, come on, Jeff. You nearly grazed my eye with that Nerf potato gun. You crazy?
Bye, have a great time.